Didn't really find a sort of blacky red t-shirt to go with this book and its somewhat darker, depressing, cynical tone, but I did find some Christmas socks which are somewhat similar. And why not? The sun is out. It's that time. It's not that time of year at all. But it is time to do some non-fiction reading. So this book I've got with me is Frankie Boyle's first novel, My Life So Far. I don't know whether or not I should be swearing on the YouTube, whether or not that's appropriate, or whether or not one of those made for kid tick boxes is going to catch me out and the YouTube police are going to have me done away with. But anyway, you've clicked on this because you probably like Frankie Boyle to some extent. And I think if you do like Frankie Boyle, you're going to get just that. This book came out, I think it was like 2009. He's done another few novels, yeah, 2009 exactly. And this is basically an autobiography about his life. The fact that this was titled like this kind of put me off the book for quite a while. And then eventually it just got to the point where I'm like, this guy's quite intelligent, he's quite quirky, and he doesn't hold back, so to say. And I kind of just wanted to see what it was about. And within like reading the first 50 pages, I was like, yeah, ideal. I do think the first 50 pages were probably the best 50 pages. It wasn't quite that funny for the rest of the book, but the first 50 pages, I think, was a couple of times where I literally laughed out loud, which even when I'm watching TV alone, never really happens. For it to happen in a book is even rarer. Like I swear I might have laughed, 50% of the laughs that I've read from reading a book just from this book. It's quite difficult to laugh when you're reading a book. So in short, it really just takes you through Frankie's life living in Glasgow as a young kid and dealing with all that crap, into him going off to university and dealing with his addictions and getting into comedy, etc., etc. There's only so much more I can tell you about the story because, yeah, I imagine you probably know enough about his life if you clicked on a video like this. But I would say if you do like him, like his personality or comedic style, then this is definitely for you. And a lot of drugs, and he made a lot of weird decisions. This is not the type of guy who'd want to be a friend, and I imagine he'd probably admit that as well at the time. I think he did go through a certain amount of addiction, and he's gone away from that later on in his life. This is really focused on the early parts. Obviously, it came out in 2009, so it takes you from his adolescence and his early career into when he basically just got onto Mock the Weeks. I think Mock the Week kind of sort of took off with him like 2008, so he'd really only been doing it for a year before this book came out. And it was long before he left and went on to do other things and such. So this is when he was really at the peak of, his fame, I would say. I think since then it's kind of tapered off a little bit because Mock the Week, he was really in front of people's faces every week if you were any sort of comedy fan, and people were watching Mock the Week a little bit more than when they're just spending their time watching comedy on like TikTok clips and things like that. Not that that's bad at all. I find a lot of good comedians that way. If you are at all interested in Frankie Boyle beyond this reading wise, there's a couple of other books he's put out. I've not yet read them so far. He also has a podcast called Here Comes the Guillotine, which has been going for about a year now. And they're starting to put some clips on YouTube as well, which is quite good. But you can listen to the full podcast if you just click it online. It's not on Spotify. Maybe it is on Spotify. I don't know. I don't have Spotify. I have YouTube because that's where we're living here. Not really a ton to mention on artwork, however. It has got that very stereotypical, 250 pages for an old paperback autobiography, and has two sections within that are made up of like the glossy images from, I guess it starts off in his early life, about a third of the way through, and then the other one that's later on is a little bit more into his career. Obviously, is a bit of a Miami porn star from the 80s, perhaps. I don't know what Miami porn stars from the 80s looked like, but maybe it was like that. Who knows? And you can get through it fairly quickly. There's like an average number of words per page, and I'll show you like a bit of a flick through of it just so you can see it yourself if it makes much of a difference to you. The chapters are like of average length. They're maybe like 15-ish pages long each. As far as cost goes, it'll be like a few pounds. You can find a few results on eBay here as per usual. I picked it up. I was thinking I'd be able to find something like this. It's been around for a while and there must be a fair few copies of in Scotland and like a charity store. And I went specifically looking for them. I was like, I'll find this book in like one of like 3, 4, 5 of them. I couldn't find it, unfortunately. and so I just got it on eBay for a few pounds, and it was worthwhile. I don't know whether I'll read the other ones. I'd probably give it like the first third, the first half, I'd give like a 5 out of 5. It was so good. Then as it went on, it was just wasn't really funny, and he really comes across as quite a messed up guy, to be honest, and that's probably what he was going for. So if that is what you're into, then you should probably check out this book. If not, then don't read it.